Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming with a game review for this Washington football team versus Eagles loss. And I'm just doing it in this format. I already had it here. Plus, I wanted y'all to see the stats while I was talking. So I figured I might as well just stay in this format for today. But, of course, I got to dive into this game. Y'all already know me. I'm going to go position group by position group, starting with the offense, then going to the defense, and also briefly talk about some of the coaches and the coaching and the play calling that went down on both offense and defense as well. But, I mean, going into this game, I'm honestly pretty proud of this team. I feel like, first of all, on Ron Rivera's behalf, this team showed a lot of fight, but we just have too many backups everywhere, man. I mean, our team was just out there backup heavy. I honestly feel like if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm nervous moving forward because they could barely beat us, and we had fifth stringers at certain positions, and they were almost fully healthy. So I feel like this game, even though the Eagles won, is more of a detriment to how not ready they are for the playoffs than how much we don't deserve to be in them. Because again, I feel like if we were fully healthy, we beat the Eagles maybe twice. I feel like we should have beat the Cowboys at least once, and I feel like we make the playoffs. But COVID-19 and injuries hit us worse than at least 30 other NFL teams. And it's just like, what NFL franchise out of this entire league do you expect to win games with the circumstances that we have? Ignoring even positional coaches being gone. Like, I don't think people understand how difficult it is to make adjustments mid-game when your positional coaches aren't even available because of COVID. That's a very underrated thing. But even beyond that, name an NFL franchise that can win with their backup quarterback, with their third and fourth string running backs, with their third and fourth string tight ends, even though the third stringer or fourth stringer, whichever one you want to call him, John Bates, looks like a really impactful rookie, and I'm really excited about his future. Jaret Patterson, the third string running back as well, looks good, and we're going to, of course, talk about all of that when I get position group by position group. But also, we're down to like the fourth, fifth string center, third string guard. I mean, injuries all up and down the offensive line. We have fourth and fifth string defensive end starting. We had Corn Yelder out there playing corner at one point. Landon Collins is not out there. He actually really matters for this team at this point. Cole Holcomb was the only trustworthy linebacker out there, whether it be due to injuries and just Jamin Davis not being ready. I mean, we're literally out there with a third of a team. I don't know what NFL franchise, if you take away even just erasing the starting offense, who can win games, let alone half the defense that we have out there as well. So I don't consider them excuses. I consider them honest reasons as to why we're struggling. I mean, there's just certain levels of talent. Like, there's guys are backups for reasons. You can't expect your fourth string center to go out there and play well enough for you to run the ball through the A gap or to be able to protect Taylor Heinicke for more than 2 seconds. Like, you just can't. Not against especially a really good and, most importantly, a healthy Eagles defensive line. So again, they kind of exceeded my expectations going into this game because I went into this game in evaluation mode. I wanted to see what the backups would look like, most notably like the rookies like John Bates, Jaret Patterson, all of these guys going into this game knowing that they're going from third, fourth string to starter in this game. I just wanted to see what they can do with a larger role at their respective positions. That was my main thing. Win or loss, I was just kind of neutral. I was just here to evaluate talent and see who really deserves to be here 2022 and beyond. So that's the general theme of all of this. Again, I'm gonna go position by position and break down everybody that basically had anything to contribute to this loss or this strong fight, the almost win that we put out there. I mean, again, the Eagles had to have a game-winning drive and then barely stop us in the red zone with all of the backups we had out there. I mean, if I'm an Eagles fan, I am not happy after this one. Of course, you're happy that you won, but man. But yeah, I'm gonna go position group by position group and talk about everybody. But the main parts I'm gonna talk about, the main players I want to talk about and really dive into are the guys that I came into this game ready to evaluate. Again, like Jaret Patterson, John Bates, all of these guys that had a larger role than normal because the starters ahead of them, and even some of these guys, the starter got hurt, the backup got hurt, and so now it's the backup to the backup out there starting. Like, that's how deep we were in our depth bag. But yeah, man, before we dive into all that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. All of my videos are organized in playlists. I even have a comedy playlist for all of my funny videos. Also, make sure you go check out all of my videos I've been coming out with this week. I have a full breakdown of how the Washington football team may address quarterback in the draft. draft and all of the top prospects, weaknesses, and strengths, and where they may get drafted projection-wise in this upcoming draft. I also did a full-blown salary cap breakdown, how we rank as far as the rest of the NFL, in the top 5 free agents at each of our positions of need: free safety, linebacker, wide receiver, quarterback, and guard, how much they may cost, how old they will be, their Pro Football Focus grades, and where they rank amongst their position out of the entire NFL. Full breakdown of that, and also my 20 positives to take from this terrible, tragic season as well. So make sure you go check that out. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, starting with the offense, of course, got to start with the quarterback. Taylor Heinicke, he had those moments where, like, the offensive line let him down. They looked like they were trying to Willie Beeman him from any given Sunday. Again, severe backups. Not just the second string and not just the third stringers. We're talking about fourth stringers. So, like, I didn't expect better out of them. Honestly, I hoped for better, but didn't expect it. But there were some plays where they just completely just opened the floodgates and just let them run through, literally unblocked sometimes even. And Taylor Heinicke made something out of nothing on those plays, but that game losing overthrow hurt, even though John Bates got tripped up. But even before he got tripped up, that was an overthrow. There was no touch on that pass. Just like my boy Ivory says, it looks like he throws paper airplanes because it just sails. Literally, there was, if he would have just arced it better down to John Bates, that probably would have been a catch. But he literally just threw it with barely any arc, like Ray Allen type of arc, over his head. Of course it got intercepted with a safety over the top waiting. And then it's just the general consistent inconsistencies from him, like the things you just expect him to play poorly at as far as his weaknesses and strengths. I mean, he's gonna be inaccurate. He's gonna throw his hospital balls, even though the Ricky Seals-Jones play wasn't a hospital ball, but it's just the bad luck of Taylor Heinicke. He's just got to get his receivers hurt some way, somehow, even when it's not his fault that time. Even though most of them this season have been true hospital balls, that one of Ricky Seals-Jones honestly wasn't. But I mean, just overall inaccuracies, not scanning the field, holding the ball too long, not using his legs when he needs to. I feel like he should definitely use his legs more than he is. The lack of arm strength, the lack of height, getting passes batted down over and over again. I mean, just the usual weaknesses that we see from him came up all over this game. And so I'm just glad that people are seeing more and more that we need to go figure out quarterback in this draft. First round even. And even if you pick up like a Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, or anybody, I still feel like we should at least address quarterback at some point relatively early in the draft. First, second, third round. I prefer first round. I don't care who we sign. If it's not a franchise quarterback like a Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, we need to go quarterback in the first round, in my opinion. But even if we don't, at least take one second or third round, get a project to learn behind somebody. When in doubt, Taylor Heinicke can either be a backup or your starter next year. I'm cool with that as long as we have a franchise quarterback being groomed right behind them and developing right on the sideline, holding that clipboard. So not much to say about Taylor Heinicke. I mean, granted, the supporting cast as far as offensive line goes wasn't that great around them, but even if you isolate Taylor Heinicke, even the plays that he had a clean pocket, he just wasn't very good. You got to appreciate him. He's fun, and he makes something out of nothing. Again, some plays where the offensive line literally just moved out the way for the defense to just have a clear lane to Taylor Heinicke. He would make something happen out of it. But beyond that, man, I mean, whew. And then going to running backs, Jaret Patterson, I loved what I saw. I definitely want him to have a larger role going into this next season. Even with Antonio Gibson fully healthy, I want to see way more Jaret Patterson in the run game and the passing game. His vision is there. I understand why we're still giving the ball to Antonio Gibson when he is fully healthy, like way more than Jaret Patterson, because he has a higher ceiling. He's far more athletic, he's bigger, he's faster, and so you want to keep giving him the ball so he can work on his vision. But even to this day, Jaret Patterson is a better pure running back as far as vision and cutting than Antonio Gibson. So I just want to see him more involved. I still like Antonio Gibson more than most people, as long as he fixes his fumbling, and he's improved in his vision. He's improved as a pass blocker. So I feel like I have nothing else to expect but for him to continue improving in both of those areas of his game moving forward. But Jaret Patterson, with his vision and his soft hands, I love him involved in the game. I feel like he should be involved in the game more often, especially with a JD McKissic hurt, or if we don't re-sign him, Jaret Patterson needs to step up basically into that JD McKissic role. Now, he's not as good of a pass blocker. He's also not as good of a route runner or a pass catcher yet as a JD McKissic. Maybe he never will be, but I definitely still want to see more Jaret Patterson. But I definitely want to re-sign JD McKissic to at least the next 3-4 years, please. And then everybody else at running back, Wendell Smallwood, the cast of 3 that we threw out there, all looked pretty good in spite of all of the bad blocking that was going on from our offensive line backups. Then speaking of offensive line, I mean, it's so hard to evaluate. Keith Ishmael, he looked decent in the first half, and then he just became terrible the second half. Same thing with Saahdiq Charles. He was looking like he was having his best game of his NFL career, which wasn't saying much. It wasn't like he was great, but he wasn't terrible in the first half. And then the second half, it just got a little ugly for him as well. Not as bad as Keith Ishmael, but it got a little ugly. Again, I mean, what do you expect when you just have so many backups in the game? And again, not even just second stringers or third stringers. We're talking about the backup to the backup to the backup at center. Like, golly, man, it's just like, what can you do? I even feel sorry for Scott Turner, and we're going to talk about him soon when I get to Scott Turner's part after we're done with all of the offensive players. And of course, I'm not saying he had a good play calling game at all, but like, I mean, what do you do with all of these backups, bro? What do you call? You can't call any plays where a route has to mature, any really deep threats. First of all, Taylor Heinicke's not going to get it there in time. He's not going to put enough arm strength on it. And the offensive line isn't even going to give Taylor Heinicke enough time to throw it. So that limits your playbook right there. Then people are getting blown up right through the middle in Taylor Heinicke's face. So you can't even really try to call passing plays, even 3-step drops, because you got the center getting blown up. Then that also means you can't really run the ball effectively because the offensive line is getting dead. It's just like, what do you expect for Scott Turner to do? Again, we're going to dive into him a little bit more when I get to his part, but I just had to talk about that real quick in the offensive line part. Then tight ends, I mean, Ricky Seals-Jones was out there for a minute and he was looking straight. Then he got hurt, freak accident, running into the cameraman, looked like a neck injury, carted off. That was crazy. So then it was just John Bates, and I guess Sammis Reyes was out there, but I never noticed him. I don't know why he's not getting the ball more. I definitely think we're in the evaluation part of the season. I feel like going into this Giants game, we should know for a fact we're not making the playoffs. We should be out of it. So can we please go out there and give guys like Jamin Davis and Sammis Reyes more playing time? Because why not? What are we trying to like really win for at this point? The Eagles game, I can kind of understand because we could technically still contend in a way. But going into this Giants game, there's no reason Sammis Reyes and Jamin Davis aren't getting the majority of snaps. It's time to do some evaluating. It's time to see what we really have to work with and really pinpoint what our true weaknesses are, because you don't want to go spend another draft pick on tight end when Sammis Reyes actually can be good. We're just not even giving them a chance. So you know what I'm saying? Or even Jamin Davis at linebacker. I mean, I feel like we need to go be as aggressive as possible with linebacker draft, free agency, whatever. But either way, let's go put Jamin Davis out there as much as possible to at least let him learn. If anything, maybe he figures something out in the game, and if he doesn't, at least there's some type of film for him to look at throughout the offseason to be like, okay, this is what I need to work on, this is what I'm already good at, so I need to focus on this in the offseason to get better at this. Things like that. Can he please start the majority of snaps in a game against the Giants? Because why not? But yeah, man, we're at the point where John Bates literally looks like our best tight end. Even if Logan Thomas were healthy, John Bates looks so good. I feel like we have a deadly tight end duo right there, which will allow Scott Turner to run 12 personnel, which he really wants to run. Scott Turner wants to run 2 tight end formations like the majority of the game, but we haven't been able to do that because Logan Thomas and Ricky Seals-Jones have been on and off this team as far as health, and then John Bates just started to come into himself like the past few weeks. And to my point again with Sammis Reyes and Jamin Davis, if Logan Thomas never got hurt, we would never know that John Bates could be this good. I mean, I felt like he would be coming out of the draft, but with all of these injuries, the silver lining is that guys like John Bates get a chance to show what they can do and mature right in front of our eyes, develop in meaningful snaps, not just practice. And look how good he looks now. I feel like we should do the same thing with other guys. Again, not saying Jamin Davis will be the equivalent of John Bates at linebacker, but what does it hurt for us to throw them out there more often so we can evaluate them? But yeah, man, shouts out to John Bates for holding it down, man. He looks like a very good pickup. If you're considering where we drafted him in the draft and how well he's played, he's arguably our best draft pick this past draft. And then receiver wise, wise, I mean, poor Terry McLaurin. He's out there struggling. Taylor Heinicke can't get him the ball unless it's only 8 yards down the field. But he got a lot of yards at the catch. Luckily, he had 7 receptions, so we targeted him quite a bit. Thank you, Taylor Heinicke and Scott Turner, because I really want Terry McLaurin to reach 1,000 yards. I want him to reach that milestone this season. He has 61 today, as you can see on the screen, and I believe he only needs 40 more. So he just needs 40 yards against the Giants, I believe. I think it's literally only 40, and he'll get 1,000 yards. So I'm really excited about that. If Antonio Gibson returns next week, I think he only needs 109. And I mean, that's not only, but that's doable against the Giants. Maybe he runs for 109 yards. Both him and Terry McLaurin reach 1,000. But yeah, I mean, Cam Sims seems to make a play every time he's throwing the ball. I don't know why. We just started throwing him the ball since Kyle Allen came into the game for the first time a few weeks ago. And now he's been getting the ball more often and he's making plays. I don't know why we don't utilize Cam Sims more. It still baffles me. And then everybody else, Dyami Brown had a nice play deep down the field. But Dyami Brown's never going to matter on this team, never going to matter on this offense and this Scott Turner offense until we get a quarterback that can throw it deep. We have 4 potential deep threats. You have Terry, DeAndre Carter, Dyami Brown, and Curtis Samuel if healthy. It doesn't matter when you don't have a quarterback with a strong enough arm to get them the ball deep downfield when they have their guy beat. You know how many times DeAndre Carter, even Dyami Brown, and especially Terry McLaurin have had everybody on the defense beat, and then Taylor Heinicke underthrows it. Now they got to come back for the ball, and it's either an incompletion or they catch it and they're tackled immediately after a contested catch. Like, they all deserve better. So if we can get a stronger arm franchise quarterback, that would be wonderful, because then now you wouldn't have wasted a draft pick on Dyami Brown. Moving on, so Scott Turner, again, I've already basically said my thoughts on him. Again, it's just like, what do you really expect with the pieces he has to work with? I feel like once we have a franchise quarterback that actually allows us to use 100% of our playbook rather than just the 60% that Taylor Heinicke allows us to use right now, and then the injuries, which really takes it down to like 30-40%, I feel like we can finally evaluate Scott Turner. Granted, there was a lot of poor play calls this game, getting frisky. A lot of that one weird trick play where we lost like 4 yards was interesting. I think he's just trying stuff. I don't even think he tried to call the best game possible. I think it was more so, hey, let me try this to see if this works. If it doesn't, rip it out of the playbook, never do it again. I feel like it was one of them games. So it's just really hard to evaluate him for various reasons. But to be completely objective, there were a lot of bad play calls out there. But that final drive where we almost scored the game-winning touchdown, you got to give him full credit. It wasn't like Taylor Heinicke was doing anything amazing. It wasn't like any player was necessarily doing anything amazing. Scott Turner was just scheming guys open, most notably the running backs on checkdowns, and we were able to move the ball down the field quite effectively. So you got to at least give Scott Turner credit for that final drive. But throughout the rest of the game, it was a little ugly. Good play calling here and there. I feel like the first quarter and the final drive were Scott Turner's best moments this game. Everything in between was a little ugly, but again, look what he has to work with. Moving on to the defensive line. The interior defensive line is fully healthy, but that edge rusher situation, bruh, that's one thing you really miss about Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Even though they weren't putting up great pass rushing numbers, they set the edge in the run game. It's really hard to get to the edge when those guys are in the game, and since neither of them were there, Chase Young ACL injury, Montez Sweat, prayers out to your family for his brother dying, so he didn't play. The Eagles already probably arguably the most potent running attack we've gone against all season. We're just able to get to the edge whenever they wanted to. Jalen Hurts, we were only rushing 4. We're gonna talk about that in the Jack Del Rio part. But like, bruh, like the defensive line, the interior was trying, but the edge rushers weren't able to hold up. And we saw moments like Casey Toohill had some moments. That's another part of the evaluation that I'm excited to see. Casey Toohill does look like he deserves a spot at least on this 90-man roster going into training camp. We'll see about the 53-man roster going into the 2022 season. But I saw a little something from him. I mean, a couple of games ago, for like 2 games in a row, we saw some flash moments from Shaka Toney. And so I'm excited about a lot of these draft picks. Dax Milne was given the ball in the backfield, couldn't really do much because the Eagles read it, but Dax Milne even had some moments throughout this season that you can build on. So I feel like this draft class wasn't as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be, because Benjamin St-Juste like was dealing with a concussion for a few weeks and now he's gone. But before then, he was looking like our most consistent corner, the most trustworthy corner. Cameron Cheeseman at long snapper is a Pro Bowl alternate. He was voted in the Pro Bowl, but then after coaches and players voted, he ended up becoming an alternate. And then again, you have John Bates in the 4th round. I think once Dyami Brown gets the right quarterback that suits his play style as far as being a deep threat, he's going to be deadly. And Samuel Cosmi, when healthy, was great this season. He looked like he was primed to be a Pro Bowler until that injury hit him. But yeah, man, the defensive line overall, I mean, it's not much to evaluate. We were only only rushing 4 so much, and then with backups, how do you expect to get pressure like that? I definitely felt like we should have blitzed more. And then the linebackers, I mean, it's really just Cole Holcomb and friends. That's literally all it is. Cole Holcomb, first of all, has ascended. This is his best season in his career by far. He looks great. He had like 3 very clutch 4th and short or goal line stops where it was literally single-handedly him stopping them from getting the first down or the touchdown. Granted, I think they still ended up getting the touchdown after one of them when they went for it on 4th down, like after him, and it wasn't his fault. But like the 3rd down play, they would have gotten a touchdown if it weren't for Cole Holcomb. And I mean, he's better in coverage. Like, he's ascended. I'm really excited about the future of Cole Holcomb. He seems like something just finally clicked against the run, in the passing game, everything. He looks just like that guy now. We have one really good linebacker and really nobody else. I mean, you can kind of count Landon Collins. If you count Landon Collins, he's really good as well. He's been big for us, but he's also injured. He's out for season, so he's not even out there. And then Jamin Davis barely played. Even though the moments he was on the field, he looked like he was making some plays, but you could tell this franchise, this coaching staff did not trust him enough to have him out there on really any play unless it was an obvious passing down. But one time they blitzed him and he made a nice play on getting Jalen Hurts before he broke free for a bunch of yards. If Jamin Davis didn't get there, who knows how many yards Jalen Hurts would have gotten. So, I mean, Jamin Davis, when he was out there, even if he only played like literally 8 snaps all game, the moments he was out there, I saw a little something. Still not good enough to warrant a 1st round pick at all. But it's not like he's hopeless. It's not like, well, it's time to move on and release him. I still would love to address linebacker because I feel like we need a guy that can contribute right away because Jamin Davis is not ready yet. He may not be ready even next year. But it's not like he's just completely hopeless. It's time to just give up on him type of thing. And then the corners, I mean, it's just not much you can say. Kendall Fuller wasn't really bad, but I mean, just overall, the Eagles were just out scheming Jack Del Rio. I mean, Dallas Goedert was just open all game. It was just not really much we could do. Again, just like Scott Turner, Jack Del Rio, I mean, what bodies do you have to even figure this stuff out? I would still love to see some adjustments. I'm not alleviating any blame. Just like Scott Turner, they still got to be better for sure. There's obvious things you can point out that they need to improve on as play callers, as scheme designers and all of that. And especially as far as adjustments go, there were like almost 0 adjustments for this team except for Scott Turner on that final drive. But it's just like, what do you work with, bro? We literally, I mean, without Landon Collins, unless Cole Holcomb or Cameron Curl on Dallas Goedert, everybody else is food. And that's why Dallas Goedert has been eating against us, because the last time we played the Eagles, where they really beat us, Cole Holcomb wasn't there. So he was just having a field day even more that game. And the only difference between that game and this game is that we had Cole Holcomb to make it a little bit less bad. But back to the corners, we were to a point where we had Corn Yelder out there, like on the field, seriously. And he made a really good play too in coverage, but like we're reaching deep into our depth right now with all of the injuries we have, COVID-19, all of that. So it's just really hard to evaluate the starters, like the technical people who should be starting, because not too many of them are out there anyway. And then safety wise, I mean, it didn't seem that bad. It didn't seem like we were getting beat over the top much at all. Well, back to Kendall Fuller, I think that was him getting blocked by Devonta Smith on one of the Eagles touchdown run plays. That's inexcusable, but other than that, he looked pretty straight in coverage. But back to the safeties, overall, I really have no complaints from them. I have to watch film because I wasn't really paying that much attention to them, because I feel like Cameron Curl is gonna ball out. That's just what he does. And Bobby McCain, I've already accepted I want to attack free safety heavily, even though I don't feel like Bobby McCain is bad, and I'm down to sign him to a cheap, maybe like 2-year deal to keep him at least as depth. And if we don't go for safety really aggressively in free agency and the draft, I'm okay with him starting again next year, because he'll have another year under his belt under this Jack Del Rio system, which means he's only going to get better. But again, I wasn't really paying attention to him and Cameron Crowe that much, because I was just too busy evaluating the linebackers and defensive line, where we just had infinite backups out there. So I'm about to go watch film to give y'all a real review on the secondary, honestly. But now to Jack Del Rio, again, like I already said, I mean, what can you really expect from him with the bodies we had available? But still, even isolating Jack Del Rio from all of the chaos, even just putting Jack Del Rio under a microscope, and even accounting for the injuries, Jack Del Rio, you just have to be better. You have to be a better play caller. You have to make adjustments, please. Like, it just didn't seem like we adjusted to really anything the Eagles were doing. Granted, they only scored 20 points, and 14 of those points were fourth downs on the goal line. Like, if this was just a regular game, they weren't fighting so hard to make the playoffs, we weren't an NFC East division rival, they weren't trying to embarrass us, this didn't feel like a must-win game for them. I feel like if this was week 5, those 4th and goal plays, they probably just kick field goals, and then we're technically up 16-12 on them, because instead of both of the touchdowns they scored were on 4th downs. So it's not like the defense went out there and played terribly. It's definitely more the offense fault than the defense, but still, even when you isolate Jack Del Rio from all of the chaos around him, he still has to be way better than he's been, especially as far as making adjustments, for sure. And then again, my biggest gripe with him, like, if you want to fire Jack Del Rio, I feel like the main reason he needs to be fired is that it took till the bye week to learn how to use William Jackson in man coverage, which is what we've been saying that's what he should have been doing since the offseason. As soon as we signed him, even before we signed him, when we were talking about what cornerback free agents we should pick up, we were like, William Jackson, as long as we have him in man coverage. Jack Del Rio rarely had him in man coverage until after the bye week. And then Landon Collins, we've been saying for forever he needs to move to linebacker. I don't know why it took till the bye week to do it, but Jack Del Rio, that is definitely blood on your hands for taking so long to make those obvious and necessary adjustments up and down the defense. There are other adjustments I can talk about, but those are 2 of them that just took way too long. There's just no reason. It's no coincidence that we made those defensive adjustments. Suddenly our defense is putting up elite numbers, and we're going on a 4-game win streak right after the bye week. And then after the 4-game win streak, we suffer a lot of injuries. COVID hit us, and then that's the direct reason why we started losing all of these games. I blame injuries and COVID way more than anything else, but certain players have to step up, and coaches especially have to step up. But again, if we're looking at a pie chart, the majority of it is definitely injuries and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ron Rivera just looks at everything next year and it's like, we're gonna keep Jack Del Rio and Scott Turner for at least 1 more year, because I want to see what they can do with a fully healthy roster. Again, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the fact that a lot of people feel like they need to go, but I'm just telling you the reason why you might as well go ahead and give up that dream, because they're going to be here for at least another year or 2, because this team, I mean, again, what did they have to work with? But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I mean, shouts out to, if you look at some of the stats, our defense held the Eagles to 4 of 12 on 3rd down, but they were 3 or 4 on 4th down. It was just nothing we could do. We just didn't have the bodies on defense and the linebackers to even stop them on the 4th and goal situation. Even though Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, Tim Settle just need to be better. And then on offense, we were 9 of 15 on 3rd downs, which is actually pretty good. Like, when you look at the stats, it wasn't that bad. They had 330 yards to our 312. That's really not that bad. They got us on time of possession, but it wasn't like completely lump-sided, and we were pretty disciplined for penalties. We only had 1 penalty for 4 yards. And then technically our only turnover, even though Taylor Heinicke technically threw 2 interceptions, but was that Taylor Heinicke throw at the end. So it's just like, with all of the injuries that we had, again, my main theme from this game is that they exceeded my expectations. I thought we were going to get blown out again. They played with heart, which speaks on Ron Rivera's behalf. Like, they went out there and played like they truly believe they can win. But then after a while, the Eagles made adjustments, and them being fully healthy and us being one of the 3 most hurt teams in the NFL, whether because of injuries or COVID, it was just only a matter of time before they figured out how to beat us. We came out with a nice game plan in the beginning, caught them off guard, came out playing with a little bit more heart than they expected, and then after a while, talent is just gonna win, bro. It's just, but so much you can do when you have less talent because of injuries. I think overall, if we're both healthy, we're more talented than the Eagles, but they were pretty much fully healthy, and we had like a third of a team out there. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, let me know what you take away from this game as well. And as always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to everybody that pulled up to the stream, leaving a like, man. I really appreciate y'all for that. And of course, I appreciate everybody that donates to the channel big time. I really appreciate y'all for that. And as always, man, I appreciate all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Like I've been saying in my videos, like I said on my live stream, just because the Burgundy and Gold season is over does not mean the Street Score season is over. We will continue the Sunday live streams. They'll just be at 1 p.m. and we'll just be talking about whatever, draft, free agency. We'll even watch some games together, maybe like some NFL games or whatever, like the playoffs and all kinds of stuff. Or we'll just be chilling on a Sunday, just 1 p.m. for about 2 hours, just talking about whatever. I'll open up the phone lines for y'all to call in and all of that. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Y'all know me. I'm coming with infinite draft content. I'm coming out with all kinds of free agency content, film sessions, all of that. So just because it's an off season for the Burgundy and Gold does not mean it's an off season for Street Scores. So I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.